What's up, everybody? It is House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. I got the lucky shirt on today. I broke it out.
Ooh.
Let's do it on a Monday. Hit that like button for the shirt. Comment for the shirt. Subscribe to the channel for Chad, who's back from vacation. Yay! Jump into the chat, the Specs chat. You guys should know I already have my buy or sell questions done for the day. We had a whole week without buy or sell. It makes its triumphant return at the end of the show. What up, Chris Bennett? Glad to see you. What up? And that's the same to Brandon and to Ben and to Sailor Joe and everybody who's already jumped into the Specs chat. By the way, this show brought to you by the amazing people at Texas Card House and Hijack Poker. Oh my God, I'm going through withdrawals. It's been a couple of days since I played Hijack Poker, since I've gone to the app. I played in any of the tournaments. Scan that QR code. Play against me later on. It won't be today, although it's only 12:02 and the Nooner tournament for $11 has just started. You could still get in right now. It's real poker, tournament, cash games, you name it. They've got it against real people for real cash. You can cash out at any of the 6 Texas Card House locations. All you have to do is put your debit card or your credit card or whatever card you want to deposit the money, get started, play some cards today. We love the Card House. We love Hijack Poker. I just haven't played it in a couple of days, and I'm feeling – I did think about doing it. You know what happened, Chad? It was about 9:45 this morning when I looked at – I literally – just as my head's turning this direction, I looked at the clock on my computer, and I was like, oh, the free roll's going on, because I play the 9 a.m. almost every day, and it's too late to get in by 9:45. I don't know what the cutoff is for that. It might be 30 minutes, but I need to do it. But I clearly am addicted enough to Hijack Poker that I know, at least on some levels, when I can and can't just jump in late.
Yes, I know that you are. By the way, shout out to everybody who's given me a shout out. Thank you, Chris Bennett, for welcoming me back. Mark did the same thing, jumping in. And Brandon says our favorite Aggie is back. Thank you,
the
Brandon.
shows were great without you, but it's good to have you back.
I know that they were, and you've been saying that for over 6 years of shows. They always get better when I'm gone.
No, I wouldn't say that, right? It's just I hadn't done solo shows in a while, and I forgot how easily I can just spew out an hour stream of conscious with. The thing is, not all the bills got paid last month or last week. Plus, Restream was a mess. I was like on delays every time. You weren't here, Chad. I went into Teams and I lashed out on it at everybody. Clean up your shows, because
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
Well, but the thing is, back in the day when we did radio together, and hopefully a little bit now, when one of us is away, hopefully the other one appreciates that.
Dude, I so appreciated you, because every day on every show, Chad, I was like, hey guys, just so you know, Chad's the button pusher around here. And at one point we were doing, I think we were doing the Modcast. And I couldn't find the Modcast banner. So every show, I just went through every show.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's okay. It's good to be back. And future Longhorn says, I need to teach Alex how to say Waxahachie properly. Waxahachie did factor into the weekend.
We're going to talk about the hatch.
Damn right. We're talking about the hatch. And we always talk about orangebloods.com. That QR code right down there, that's how you can click and sign up for orangebloods.com. Go to, among other things, you can see the updated commitment list that now includes a wide receiver from Waxahachie. We'll talk about some of the commitments. It was a big recruiting weekend, 3 of them to come. First one's done now. Now you got the 2 even bigger ones coming on the 13th and 20th. So, Catch, as we dive in today, where does it start for you? Is it the commitments Texas got? There were 3 of them. Or is it some other stories that they were working on this weekend?
It's the $100 super chat from Hooked on Horns.
Who
just popped in? That's how you interrupt a show. $100. Call back to my first ever super chat in honor of the softball girls taking 2 out of 3 against Texas Tech. And hey, Hooked on the Horns, thank you. Look, Chad's a little butthurt because his Aggies fumbled the bag on the softball front, and that's why he ignored the softball thing coming out of the gate. Plus, we did have a segue involving Waxahachie. So it was.
Hey, somebody mentioned my hometown. What am I going to do? I transitioned right into the show topic.
But we'll get to the show topic. And it's the first ever national championship in program history.
It is.
He wants to have Lou Holtz sing the Eyes of Texas for $100.
Ah, there you go. All right, hooked on the horns. Here we go. I gotta clear this. Let me clear my throat. The eyes of Texas are upon you all the live long day. The eyes of Texas are upon you. You cannot get away. Soon I think you can escape them from night to early in the morning. The eyes of Texas are upon you. You no good dirty Sooners and filthy Red Raiders. Till Gabriel blows his national championship MFing hard.
There was a little Scottish guy in there at the very end. The very end, Lou Holtz turned into Scottish guy, but I enjoyed every bit of that. Thank you, Hooked on Horns. I hope you got your money's worth. And look, I've got softball questions and buy or sell. We'll circle back on this for sure. Mm-hmm. It was a big deal. In fact, my Monday overreaction show, which I'm going to record later, will be Texas softball centric, Chris Del Conte centric. So believe me, we'll have wall-to-wall coverage on that topic before the day is over. But it was a big recruiting weekend, Chad. And you asked, coming out of it, I don't know. I don't know that there's a single big one thought. I think the biggest thought, and yes, Chris Bennett is right. Hold on. I pushed the wrong thing. Scottish Lou Holtz. Which is a thing I never knew that we needed, but now we know.
I did coach at Notre Dame, right? There's close. There's a little Irish, little Scottish, get it all. No problem.
They've gone through some hand-to-hand combat over the years.
That's true.
I think it's probably the commitments that they got for different reasons, but they pick up 3 from over the weekend. They get a big defensive tackle from Louisiana, Dylan Berrymon, that came in Saturday night. And one of the reasons why that stood out is because I dared walk away from the computer at about 9:00 on Saturday thinking, you know what, tomorrow's a big day. That's when things will go down. And I didn't do an instant analysis piece because I gave up. Then they got a kicker yesterday, and I just think it's fascinating. High school kicker recruiting won't do big numbers on YouTube, but I could probably just talk 2 hours about the insanity of it all. Mm-hmm. And then they picked up a commitment from the Hatch. You mentioned it, Cohen Brown, the wide receiver out of Waxahachie. A guy that might be one of the most, I think is an interesting guy to talk about because there aren't many guys in the state this year that I look at and think that guy's underrated by everybody. And I think he might be it. And I don't think his rankings will stay the same moving forward. You're talking about a guy that ran a 10.6 900 meters in the spring. I don't know that all of the services have caught up to like what he is as a talent. And I think they will. I think Rivals, ironically enough, might be the closest to it right now. They have him as a Rivals 250 4-star type of prospect. I think he might be better than that. Not by leaps and bounds. I don't look at him and think he's a super blue chip, but I don't know that he's far from that either. Whereas On 3 and 24/7 and ESPN all have him as a 3-star. So there's the commitments, but it's also hard not to pay attention to the guys that visited this weekend. There's some monster names. Mm-hmm. And with those, I think it dovetails nicely into your general point, which is this was the first of a collection of official visit weekends. This really does, for me, feel like the beginning of the 2026 recruiting cycle, really. Because I think a lot of what they've done is build foundation pieces, but I think, and I don't know that that's what we saw this weekend, but I think what we're about to see is the big dogs are about to walk into the doghouse and set up shop. And, you start thinking about guys like Lamar Brown, who they have coveted, who is one of the, a 5-star guy, one of the nation's top prospects. He'll be at A&M, I believe, next weekend. They're trying to get that kid in, and he just kept missing. And yet he visits this weekend, and the word coming out is that Texas is high on his list. I think that's a kid whose recruitment is going to be decided ultimately in November and December. He'll commit sometime this summer. But I think he may fall into the category of, because he's got so many big-time schools looking at him. He is so coveted that I think we'll see offers on the NIL landscape later in the process. Think about how Texas got Justice Terry. I think if they feel like they've got a Justice Terry's chance with Lamar Brown, they may take the same tactics. So really interesting that he was in town this weekend. Impossible not to pay attention that a number of national prospects came in this weekend, and this is
was this the weekend for Xavier Crowell?
Yes.
It was. Okay.
And we're just waiting. Mum's been the word on Crowell's visit really since then, but he's another guy. Those would be the two big national prospects from my perspective that came in this weekend that, when they speak and give real earnest interviews and not, hey, it was a good visit, like not going out of town, but later this week or even after next week, where's Texas at from a buzzword? June has been when Texas has done so much damage in the last 3 recruiting classes that I have almost reached a point where I just don't pay attention to anything that happens before then. If you look back at last year's recruiting year, the entire cycle, May and April and March, I'm not saying they were insignificant, but there were so many flip commitments. NIL starts to take such an important part for Texas, the school that we pay attention to obviously the most. That's when business picks up. That's when things start to go down. And so this weekend for me really was like, okay, from now until this thing is completely settled, it's absolutely go time. So for me, this was really, I don't know, when you're watching like a 400-meter race, Chad, when does who's in first and like what the state of the races start to matter to you?
In the 400?
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, it's the the beginning of that last curve. When you're starting to see it really take shape. Yeah. I mean,
I think for me, it's always like the bell goes off. It's that last lap.
Right.
Well, okay, here we like. I know what you're saying.
Well, the 400 is only one lap.
I'm sorry. I was thinking the 1600. Sorry.
Oh, the 16. Oh, the 16 would be the bell lap.
Yes.
In the 400, it's either that straightaway on the other side or it's the curve.
I said 400 because I was thinking about the final 400, but yes, the 1600. Even with relays, right? It's always like that final baton handoff.
Yep.
And you're like, here we go. And I that's what this weekend was for me. It really was a combination of things. Hard not to think about the commitments because I think they're interesting conversation pieces. Hard not to think about the other guys that aren't commitments, but there are expected to be a few more additions from this class or from this weekend before it's all said and done. And then, there's a very good chance that Texas will be at 105 scholarships next season. Mm. So their incoming numbers could be 10 or 15 spots more than what it would have been in this season. So you may see them take a few more flyers. I look at the kicker, Jake Collette, the kid out of Georgia. No other major scholarship offers. Texas has kind of fallen in love with this guy. They're not going to have this guy show up next year and be the starting kicker for a likely number 1 preseason team in the country. You think about Arch Manning coming back and what we think Texas will be in 2026, an improved version of 2025. So they're going to take, and they lose 2 kickers, a punter, and a deep snapper in the portal. Through graduation. So they've got a lot of rebuilding to do on the special team side going to the next season.
And plus,
they're going to go into the portal. This is one for the future, and I think you can do that with your special teams now in a way that maybe was a little harder to do when you were at 85 scholarships. I think there's a bigger special teams investment that we will see, partially because you won't be able to bring in walk-ons anymore. You're going to have the roster limit's going to be 105.
Right. And you were one to always kind of get a little freaked out when you saw that type of stuff at the scholarship level when it was 85. But now it does look like it's, by the way, while I was on vacation,
you have to have backups, right? I mean, I think you have to be prepared to what happens if we get down to a third string kicker, because those things happen.
Yeah.
And you know, Anwar and I have had conversations in the past where he's like, anything more than one kicker on scholarship is a waste of resources. And I don't know that I disagree with him, because you can always count on having like a half dozen walk-ons.
Right. But now you're allowed to, it will probably feel different, right? There's going to be there's space for 2 or 3 if you want.
This guy for me would have been previous season's preferred walk-ons.
Okay.
And he may not be the last kicker that we see, because you have to have guys kicking the ball. You can't have just a couple. You can't. I don't think you can have 2. I'm a little leery about 3. Like, I think the biggest change in the 125 or however many scholarships or roster sizes that existed previous, it feels like Nebraska was even well above that. That's where you would just stash kickers and they'd all work out. And then the ones that were worth the crap kind of get bumped up. And maybe some of these other guys, you just work them out. And they just survival of the fittest on the preferred walk-ons. And then eventually those guys compete for kicking positions. And maybe oftentimes they'll beat out scholarship guys. But you won't be able to have that luxury in this new era where there will be 105 roster spots. In all likelihood, most schools are going to go to 105 scholarships. So, I mean, you have to prepare for that. So when I looked at the commitment of the kicker this weekend, I thought to myself, like, that's one of these new age 2026 and beyond offers where, hey, these guys have to be on scholarship. And where that guy for the past 25 years probably would have been a preferred walk-on. There's just no such thing anymore. I mean, I guess there could be, but that guy's still going to get put on scholarship, because I think that's the model that Texas and everybody else will follow, just like the Big Ten is. So, something to think about.
All right, I got questions for you, but first let's pay a bill here. It is hot outside. I'll try to cool everybody off. Look at this picture Travis from Hay City Store sent me. How tasty does that look? That's their Frozen 4 for you hockey fans or just drink fans. That would be your Jack Frost, Jack and Coke. That's your frozen Jack and Coke. Pina Colada speaks for itself. The Kentucky frozen coffee. Let me tell you something. If you go to Hay City Store and they've got some kind of dark liquor dessert going on, take advantage. It's going to be fantastic. The skinny limeade is there at the end. FM 150 out in Driftwood. If you got something set up where you're about to do some day drinking, night drinking, all day drinking, get on out there. Hayes City Store. Tell Travis and Tamara that you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. Very tasty. I may or may not have had a couple of beverages.
You know what some people call day drinking, right?
Tuesday?
I was going to say Monday.
Monday. It is Monday. You're right. It is Monday today, so it probably should have.
You read my mind, though. We were on the same page there.
Yeah, I had a question about Lamar Brown, but you just brought up a different question. While I was gone, Catch, the joke is, of course, when Anwar goes on vacation, guys start committing. Apparently, when I go on vacation, the NCAA figures out it's lawsuits and stuff. So that happened in a media dump while I was gone. Have we gotten any official 105 versus 85? Did I miss that while I was gone?
No.
Okay.
I just, I've reported probably a couple of weeks ago and talking to a source familiar with Texas recruiting, because it's a question that I want Anwar to ask Sark the next time Sark has availability. But look, if they're planning for an 85-man roster right now for next season, and then it jumps to 105, you kind of left with your pants down a little bit. That's a lot of roster space. And so what is it that you would try to do, right? You try to scramble and fill it as best you could, but then maybe you'd make some of your walk-ons scholarship players for a year. I don't know, but it puts you into a position where, but if you're planning for 105 and then it ends up 85, now you're also really screwed. So I'm curious how they are straddling the lines of being at 85 now and not officially, but there's just no way the SEC, look, the Big Ten has won the last 2 national championships. They could win a third this season. That's not crazy talk. It's an SEC Big Ten world. The Big Ten will go into this season with a 20-man scholarship advantage over the SEC. God forbid the Big Ten win a third consecutive national championship. And then, quite honestly, the SEC's, as much as we think the SEC is the best conference in America, and the NFL would tell us that's where all the talent's coming from, hey, man, where the championships go is where the bragging rights go. And the SEC's had them forever.
Yep.
But
and you can feel it when the SEC freaks out when anybody else wins a national championship because they love to brag more than anybody.
Well, and it will be a note this year that the Big Ten has this advantage that other conferences don't. And, you know, it will just be a quiet talking point. It won't be the kind of thing that is talked about 5 minutes before game day does predictions or anything like that. But it will be every week, there will be little mentions about injuries and, you know, guys that will come in that wouldn't have otherwise been on scholarship, but were able to be on scholarship because of the new rules. And you get into the playoffs, there's an SEC and a Big Ten matchup, and these things will be discussed. And I think competitively, you know, the Big Ten, in talking to the Big Ten, people that cover the Big Ten, all of the schools are terrified of each other, Chad. I talked to somebody that covers Nebraska, and the thought process was like, we have to take 105. We can't beat Ohio State when they've got 85. What are we going to do if they max out to 105?
Right. If they get 95 or 100 or 102, we're in deep
What if
trouble.
Ohio State's at 105 and we're like, well, we wanted to take care of our scholarship, our walk-ons. So we gave 10 scholarships to walk-ons. They're all terrified that Michigan or Ohio State, that somebody's going to just go for it. And so because they're terrified that everybody's going to go for it, they're all just going for it. Nebraska has had about 50 walk-ons in their program per year. They may not have any this year. That the expectations, what I was told by a Nebraska source was that Nebraska plans on having 105 scholarships. They're going to tell all of the walk-ons to show up in August for practice. And that the only way a walk-on might actually make the team is if there's an injury before like August 15th. Running back goes down, somebody tears an ACL or something, and then a walk-on or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, may be able to make the team. But like that may be the way it unfolds at Nebraska. So again, watching the way Texas is handling recruiting right now to bring all this home, they've got to be kind of stuck in between two places. And I don't think Sark's ever been asked about it before, but if you look at this recruiting class, they're up to 11 right now, Chad. But, you know, other than Diabell, there's not really anybody in the group. Well, and look, Jermaine Bishop, I'm looking at the Rivals rankings. There are other guys in other networks, but 2 of the first 11, 3 of the first 11-ish are kind of super blue chip prospects. They've been building the foundation of this class. They've taken 2 specialists. They have as many specialists in a deep snapper and a kicker than they do super blue chips. And it's like, okay, I know, and ATX Bates, I see your super chat. And I have a Mia Scott buy or sell question for Chad. But, you know, it's starting to feel like, okay, here we go. I think a little bit that moving forward as the talent at the visits in the next 2 weeks hits campus. I think we're going to see more big names commit, but I think we may see more volume as well because, like I said, I think we're looking at a Texas that plans on taking a very large class next season once the 85 likely goes up to 105.
Bates, we will get to your super chat real quick. This one will set it up. Mark says, Texas wins championships when Chad relaxes. Catch, give him a paid vacation in January. Mark, he's got an idea for the beginning of the year. And then we get to ATX Bates. $4.99 on a super chat. Buy or sell. Mia Scott's knee is to Texas as Kurt Schilling's bloody sock and ankle is to Boston. Biggest overcoming injury performance in Texas history. Buy or sell. Wow.
Okay. No, I'm not going to compare it to Schilling. And here's why. Schilling milked, that, right or wrong, like Schilling could have changed socks. Like all of the show and the theater that went along with the bloody sock.
I've never heard that breakdown of Kirk Schilling. He could have changed socks.
No, like he could have, but part of that moment was the theater of all of us seeing him bleed.
Uh-huh.
And then he's become like a legend. And look, it's an all-time moment. Like I'm not underrating Schilling's performance. It really is one for all time. The thing is, you wouldn't have known Mia Scott was hurt if they didn't tell us.
I had no idea.
Mike Schmidt in the College World Series.
That play,
was Gold Glove level on third base.
You can make a basic play at third in softball, and I'm impressed. But when you have to make any kind of tough play, it's remarkable with the base paths being that short. And that backhander that she made in game 3 was incredible. And catch, it's a bigger version of this, but the Trevor Gooseby in for Kelvin Banks thing against A&M, that's one I didn't know about till afterwards. And it just made it even better. Same thing with Scott. I didn't know Mia Scott was hurt till I saw your 10 thoughts from the weekend. Like, seriously, because we were following it as we were starting this vacation.
ACL, Chad.
Right. I didn't even know. I had no idea because we're following it a little differently. And by the way, shout out to my man, Evan, who recognized me on the cruise ship and was the one that told me first person I discussed it with. My wife told me they won, and then we're like headed to dinner or something. And yeah, that was like the first time I'd realized, but I had no clue that had gone on. I didn't realize the whole thing with Kavan's grandmother until after it was like all developing and gone through. So it's amazing. It's one of those that to do that.
See, and now this is Chris Bennett's got, because she didn't show Chad the signs. It's a torn ACL in a national championship series, so that gives it unbelievable amounts of clout. But the eyeballs tell us when we can see guys really or women for that matter, laboring through the injury, which Mia just didn't do.
So when did we find out about it? Like we're
They told us at the beginning of the College World Series.
Okay, so as they got to Oklahoma City, that's when we found out.
Yeah, and look, I think they felt comfortable sharing the news because she was so effortlessly able to do so.
Yeah, that's it. That is just incredible.
Man, if I told you, hey man, Mia Scott's tore her ACL on like last weekend, and they're going to try to let her play this weekend.
Oh,
we would all say, whoa, is that in the best interest of Mia? Like all of like the alarm bells would be going off about like, I don't know if that's in the best. So she played on it down the stretch towards the end of the season. However, able to do so, she's able to play her position flawlessly. One error in game 3. Mia, come on, you can be better.
Yeah, and for the record, that is the only thing keeping that program from just stomping national titles out everywhere. They can get weirdly sloppy, including this year at the end. That's their red zone. That's their Sark's red zone.
They won the national championship playing bad news Bears level defense out of the field.
It's crazy. Well, because
at one point, Chad, I was like, Tanner, catch the ball.
Yeah, catch. There's two really good times in a softball game to start playing like that. One's when you're up 6-0. The other's when you're up 10-0. Like you can start booting a couple around when you're up that many.
You're up 10-0 and you're kicking the ball around the field. You go do the pitcher's huddle on the conference on the mound, and everybody just laughs.
Yeah. Oh man,
they just laugh.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing thing. I will never forget it. I'll never forget that particular aspect of that championship. And I mean, hell, Catch, I don't forget that when Chance Mock came in for Vince and they win that famous game against Tech, I'll never forget that B.J. Simmons, the other quarterback, had a torn ACL that we found out about later. We found out that cat was going on a torn ACL, and that kind of heroic behavior, I'll never forget. And in this case, she helps them win a natty. Not just helps, like smashing home runs and making plays. And like you said, the one error, but everything else was incredible. So yeah, good on her, man. I hope she gets better quickly, but that's a legendary part of that team, obviously.
Our favorite Michelle Lynn said, need her to give CJ Baxter some tips.
Yeah, right.
Can I tell you my one awful thought of the weekend?
Sure.
It's bad. Like, I don't know if I should say it out loud. I'm in a safe space, right?
Theoretically, yes. Depends on where you're about to go.
I'll say it because it's not so bad that I can't do the build-up.
Okay.
And well, you know, like when Aaron Ross and Sonia Richards got together.
Yes.
We celebrated that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, that's badass. And then we immediately thought, oh my God, the kids that they can make.
Oh, everybody was trying to get them in a room alone when they heard about that relationship. Every Longhorn fan I've ever met, Catch, wanted those. They were sending bottles of champagne to them. Yeah, like quickly.
It's kind of sick.
It's a little gross. It is. It's a little gross and kind of creepy, but it is real.
It's not even kind of creepy. It's really creepy. I can only imagine Aaron Ross and Sonia Richards out. And like randos walking up to them and saying, hey, I am so happy for you kids. Now, can you like get in the back seat of the car or something and start making them babies? Them babies ain't gonna make themselves.
Longhorn steakhouse owners across town. We have a special room for you in the back if it comes up. I don't know.
So my thought was like, look, Mia Scott qualifies as Sonia Richards, Aaron Ross level of Texas royalty.
Mm-hmm.
My thought was, man, I don't know if CJ Baxter's good enough for her.
Damn.
I know. That's why I didn't want to say it. CJ, hey, you know what, though? This is the single biggest piece of evidence for me that CJ Baxter's going to have a badass year.
Yeah.
He's dating too electric of a female athlete to be a scrub.
Oh, see, now I get the connection. I did not realize the two were dating. I thought Michelle was just making a sport-to-sport comparison of injured players. I didn't realize they were dating. My bad.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And so CJ's got to raise it up just to be able to go out with Mia, is all I'm saying.
And that's, that was the stuff, like with the conversations happened around Aaron Ross. And look, there's a lot of great couples that are both athletes, but like in Aaron Ross's case, when you were talking about what you had to live up to, like, I'm not saying Aaron Ross needed both of the Super Bowl rings to play the resume game by the end of it, but he kind of did. Like, he kind of did.
I mean, that is what comes with that level of superiority. Like, she's a titan in the history of Texas athletics now. She really is.
Yeah. And the fact that they put a ring on the story. Like there were names you weren't going to forget. You talked in your 10 thoughts this weekend about your connection to that program. It's something you followed through the years. Softball people are going to remember the names of Atwood and Scott and Kavan and everything. But now everybody does. Now, if you follow Texas at all, it just notches them up just a little bit because now they're national champions. So it's incredible.
Never mind. I'm stopping. I feel so icky just talking about it that I'm not going to tell you the next thing that I was about to say.
Okay.
But it involved the movie Challengers in Zendaya and two Texas.
All right. Fair enough. If y'all want to jump in with a super chat to stop Catch from talking about challengers.
Do you know why I brought that up though? Because somebody tweeted yesterday after the French Open final that somebody tweeted, "This is all Zendaya wanted in the movie Challengers was this match," and it's exactly right.
This is what she was begging for.
This is what she was trying to create.
If y'all want to shoot us a super chat, you can do that. All right, let's see if we can. Pay this bill. Let's see if I can figure out AV consultations. I took Catch off the screen because I'm going to see if I can get this video thing to work. AV consultations, all kinds of stuff they can do. Let's try it.
Hi, everyone. This is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations. We've been serving and assisting customers in the Texas area
I think I got this by now, old man. This is Camilla McKay, Audiovisual's social media and website manager. Our company has been helping you sit back and relax for the last 37 years. We come to you, and we're the kind of workers you want in your home. We give you all the advice at a great price, and we do a lot more than just audiovisual systems. We have employees capable of performing services like electrical contracting, heated floors, motorized shades. Am I forgetting anything, old man?
Yeah, we do surveillance systems, controlled lighting systems, and landscape lighting, computer networks, multi-room audio systems, and of course, we install some really cool theaters.
I had a feeling you were going to say that last one.
Now, am I forgetting anything?
Only this. Remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
So give us a call at 512-255-8678.
Or visit us online at avconsultations.com.
That's 512-255-8678.
Look at that. Got that done. No, wait, I got to get that off. Hold on. Hold on. We'll get there. I thought I got it done. Now come on, Chad. You can do it. Hang on. Hold on, Catch. We got you. There you go.
Catch.
There it is. I
have 3 thoughts on the new spot.
Okay.
Number 1, man, Camilla just punked her dad. She just punked him.
Happens every time.
That was the biggest of the punking, though. It wasn't even the old man. It was like, sit down. I got this.
Yeah. Oh, no. She's getting more and more attitude. You can feel it. Just the more she's worked with the company. Now it's like she's standing up. It's like, you know what? I got it.
That was the second thought I was going to make was like, you can feel her spreading her wings now.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, old man, but they're her spots moving forward. And then third, it's funny when she says make love to whoever the hell you want to. I was at HEB this weekend and I did no, I didn't. Sorry. It's called. That would have been a crime. I would not have been.
That would not have been. Good.
Yeah.
That would not have been good at all.
You were on a cruise ship. You should just been like, I don't make the rules. I just follow Camilla's rules. Make love to whoever you want to, honey.
One of the things, Catch, I enjoyed about watching the softball stuff, and Chris Bennett says Kennedy was all the talk, but Kavan owns her 5-0 versus Kennedy. I did enjoy how Texas fans were reacting to the broadcast because fan bases get that way, about the way things are treated. But this is also a team that when you take that Oklahoma team out, 4-time defending champs, even though they'd lost whatever they lost from last year, they're going for 5 in a row. You beat them, then they couldn't get back to you. The team that knocked them out has this now famous player NIL deal, and they even announced she's got a new NIL deal before game 3, and you beat her twice. So that's just extra, bulletin board stuff for Texas when you look back at this team.
I think it's really important for this program that they dethroned Oklahoma in their backyard. Ultimately Tech puts them out, but Texas sent them to the losers bracket. Mm-hmm. And it had been, I think, God, I look back on it. Oklahoma had beaten them 7 straight times in Norman or something or in the state of Oklahoma.
In the state of Oklahoma, yeah.
And the runs for and against were completely one-sided. It was, I really didn't have a lot of, and this team didn't play great down the stretch. They got annihilated by A&M 14-2 in the SEC tournament. They lost, I think, 7 of their last 9 in the regular season.
And that Clemson series was so
they
tough.
were second and third with no outs.
Yeah.
Away from being eliminated, and us describing this season as a disappointment, because had they not got out of the super regionals, it would have been remembered as a little bit like the Texas baseball season, a little bit like A&M's baseball. You end up being remembered for the footnote.
Yeah.
It's the all-time footnote as opposed to what you accomplished. This is what they did, and this is the thing you need to know about why that's notable. And it's always like not good. And it's never, well, they were expected to go 0-31 this season. And then instead they went to a super like UTSA gets to do that. They get swept this weekend by UCLA, but then UTSA gets to say, well, but it was the best season of all time.
They're playing with house money in a big way right now.
Texas doesn't get that. So the softball team was on the brink and then got to Oklahoma City. And I mean, by the end, nobody thought that was an accident. Nobody at the end, when Texas raises the championship, felt like the best team didn't win. It is, in a weird way, the way they settle things in college baseball with the 2 losses. It's like once you lose twice, it's like you don't really get to say shit. And Texas navigated that pathway and went through SEC team and SEC team. And, they played big dogs. They played the biggest dog. And then in the end, they had to go through the biggest dog pitcher. And, I can remember when the Phillies won the World Series in 2008, and it was fantastic. As a fan, starting since 2003, I had been waiting 25 years from that. And I can remember the next season, and they're going for a repeat. And I wanted the Yankees. Why did I want the Yankees? Because it felt like it would mean something. It felt like if you repeat and you beat the Yankees in that repeat, you're a historically memorable team. Instead of a one-off winner, what happened? They played the Yankees. What happened? The Yankees beat them. And I remember walking away from that series thinking, you know what? I could have done with the Devil Rays all over again, all things being. But what Texas, I bring that up though, because Texas had its cake and ate it too. They'll play Oklahoma next year, and the mystery of Oklahoma and the shroud of invincibility that Oklahoma has kind of held over Texas, that's gone, man. They're champions. And if you're Texas now, the first one's the hardest one to win. You can imagine this Texas team coming back next year and being right in the thick of it all over again. And, I think Mike White's program really not only took off, and it becomes, I think it belongs now at the seat of the table. Nobody gets to sit with Oklahoma. I guess there's a table, and Oklahoma gets to sit at the seat of the table because they won 4 in a row and just got dethroned. But Texas, I don't know how many people get to roll call at the table, because in the last half decade, only 2 programs have won national championships now.
Yeah, I was going to say, in that sport, it's a very small group that,
But Texas wasn't at the table until they won this weekend. And now they're at the table. And, it's like UConn basketball. You start thinking about the programs historically that took a while to eventually get number 1. And then 10 or 15 years go by and you're like, oh, they have 3 or they have 4 now. And, I think that's what this program has a chance to do. And it's why if you're the Texas football program, if you can get one under Sarkisian, it will feel like a second or a third is possible, just like it did with Mac Brown, where we went from Mac's not good enough to win the big one. He's not capable of doing it. He folds in the big one. In the moment they won a national championship, nobody ever said that about Mac Brown or Texas again while Mac was really here, right? Nobody in 2008 was saying, yeah, but they've got Mac Brown, so they can't compete. Nobody in 2009 was saying, well, when they play Nick Saban in the national championship game, Mac Brown gives Texas a lesser chance of winning. But that's the way people thought before he won a national championship. And I think Mike White's been a guy who's been so close so many times that he had a little bit of a stigma of the Ryan Day stigma, if you will, which is,
right.
He's really good, but he can't get over the top. Well, now he has. It probably won't be his last. And I'm going to do a video on this later, but kudos to Chris Del Conte. Like, Mike White was not his first hire technically by a few weeks, but Mike White was the first hire that people went, oh, Chris Del Conte is capable of doing that at Texas. And it really was, when you think about, well, Vic Schaefer was a hire in the Mike White fold kind of fashion, right? It's go find somebody who's badass nationally, and that's who you hire. It's the anti-Rodney Terry hire. He likes guarantees on the box, and his guarantees on the box need to be, we'll take you immediately competing at a high national level. And every hire other than men's basketball has been exactly that. Like, his batting average right now is, I called him the Daniel Day-Lewis of college athletic directors, because Daniel Day-Lewis could make a movie every once in a while that you'd go, I've never seen that actually. Don't really have a need to. But every other performance, or every 3 out of 4 other performances, anything other than like 1 or 2 movies, and you're like, oh yeah, no, he won the Oscar for that, or was Oscar nominated for that. And that is, I think, what his hires have been. The biggest, Steve Sarkisian in a lot of ways is the most unqualified of the guys that he's hired, and all he's done is be the only college football coach in the country the last 2 years to get his team to a semifinal. So rarefied air right now on the 40 acres. And again, congrats to the Texas softball team. It feels like it wasn't that long ago that Connie Clark had that as a club sport before it became a scholarship sport. And it's kind of cool to watch it grow up from a baby, literally, to what it is now. Like, it reached its potential.
No, and it is very specific with the Oklahoma City thing. The fact that, moving forward, as long as Oklahoma is going to be really good, you got to deal with them there every time. There's no other sport where you can say that you're going to go. It's not like Creighton dominates baseball and they're in, oh my God, we have to go to Omaha and face Creighton. That doesn't happen in other sports. He had to deal with it, and they did. So, yeah, that's amazing. All right, so definitely shout out to that softball team. If y'all want to give us a little super chat love, you can do that. I have a question for Ketch involving recruiting, if he wants it, or we might play buy or sell.
We'll do that, and then we'll do buy or sell.
We will see. Real quick, let me pay a bill before we do that and give some love to Sinus and Snoring specialists. So I went on a cruise. I told y'all what we were going to do. My wife has a CPAP machine. She let them know she had the CPAP machine. So they sent an extension cord and that distilled water to our room to make sure she had it. She slept like a baby. It was great. You can do that. If you're heading out on a cruise and you got the CPAP, remember that. My brother-in-law did the same thing. He slept great on the cruise. Sinus and Snoring specialists can make sure you're sleeping better, feeling better, resting better. It might be a CPAP, but they have a lot of other options as well. Surgical and non-surgical options. I went in 2017, and heck, now I'm working up towards 10 years. It's hard to believe that, but yeah, it's been a wonderful journey for me because I sleep great. And by the way, I don't have a CPAP, a little bit of a different path for me. Check them out. They can get rid of your allergies for good as well. All the sinus issues that you have, this is the place that can fix it. 601-0303, or go to sinussnoringent.com. Feel clear, rested, and healthy, no matter where you are, cruise or otherwise, with Sinus and Snoring specialists. All right, Ketch, before we get to buy or sell, just a quick Lamar Brown question for you.
Yes.
Because I'm fascinated by one aspect of it. I haven't had a chance to ask you. Lamar Brown, for those people who don't know, is now listed in the Rivals rankings as an athlete. When you hear that word in recruiting, normally that's, well, this dude was a badass DB, but he also plays receiver, so we're going to call him an athlete. That's not who Lamar Brown is. Lamar Brown is 6'5", 292. That's how Rivals lists him. He, at one point, was their number 1 rated interior offensive lineman. And then I believe Services had him as the number 1 defensive lineman. And then they just decided, you know what? He's so freaky. Let's call him an athlete. How many times do you remember something like this happening? I know it's fairly new, I guess, this designation, but How unique is that for you, covering it as long as you have with Lamar Brown, to be an interior, lineman type and be considered an athlete?
Considered an athlete? I mean, that doesn't happen a lot. And I wonder if is Rivals and On3 will merge, and I wonder if the athlete thing will go away. But because I think of him as a defensive lineman personally. But it happens. I'll give you an example. Casey stuttered when Texas recruited him. I'm sure there are others. It's the first guy that pops into my mind because he was being recruited by Miami as a defensive tackle, and he was being recruited by Texas and others as an offensive lineman. And, he was a guy that could have – they're defined guys that can play on both sides of the ball or in high school is not strange at all. I think most aren't physically elite like this guy is, and so they're not thought of as NFL prospects on both sides of the ball, whereas this guy's so talented that you could put him on either side of the ball and project him to possibly be a first-round draft pick. And sometimes, like DJ Williams, the linebacker that played for the Broncos and went to Miami, he was Sergio Kendall was a linebacker in high school and a running back. So we see the multiple positions all the time. Usually by the time they're at this level in high school, it's just kind of settled what their best position is. And I think so. It's not unusual to see these guys play both ways. It's unusual. I think it's his uniqueness that makes him a 5-star, that makes all of this possible. Otherwise, I think he would more naturally project towards one position or the other. And he's dynamic enough that he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do.
And again, for you, it's defensive side of the ball. I know Jason and I on the recruiting hour, Jason's talked about his relationship with Alan Clark and how important that is to him moving forward for you. He's a defensive stud in college and then in the NFL?
Yeah, for me, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But could you ever foresee a guy like that trying to go Travis Hunter? I'm just throwing out a weird question. Could you ever see a guy that says, I want to play interior D-line and interior O-line at the same time?
No, because there are no plays off in the middle.
Oh,
and the thing is,
brutal.
we watch these Texas defensive tackles get rotated to such a degree that oftentimes they're not playing 70 snaps a game. They're playing 30, 35 snaps a game.
Right.
It'd be hard to play even 30, 35 snaps a game on defensive because they don't rotate on the offensive line in college.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it would just be asking a lot for a guy to play 70 snaps on offense and then turn around and play 30. I mean, you're just – what we were talking about earlier with Mia Scott, and you hear something and you think, man, is that in the best interest of that as a human being? Are they taking care? I would almost at that point, that's –
yeah, no, you
couldn't. I mean, if he goes to a big time program, if we were to do that every game, we're talking 1,700 snaps a season.
Yeah. The only thing I would allow for there is let him be the defensive guy, and maybe there's a situation. Maybe there's a drive here and there.
No, he's going to play one or the other.
But
and I think that having him, I think it's cute to rate him as an athlete, but I think everybody thinks of him as a defensive lineman.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, it is remarkable to me that he was good enough to be considered the best in the country at both.
Jatavian Sanders is probably the most recent example of a similar type big body rated as an athlete coming out of high school.
Who's that now? Oh, Sanders.
Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah. Right. I remember that.
And there was, even as good as he was at tight end up until his final year, because Texas had so much need at the edge and defensive end positions, there was always talk of that guy should be on defense instead of offense, even while he was a dynamic starting level tight end for Texas. So it's not as unusual as you think. We see shades of it every year. This one, though, it is a little unique. We don't see the athlete offense and defensive lineman very much. And I think Rivals could probably make a case to justify it, but I think we all know he's going to end up on defense. And frankly, 6'5", 292, if he was going to play tackle, you'd like him to be a little taller. So, I think that his as athletic and dynamic as he is, I think his frame and size and overall tool set's best set for defense.
Yeah, I remember saying over and over again, Jatavian Sanders should focus on defensive line until I saw that clip where he snatched that ball out of the air, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe. Yeah. He kind of gets to do what
You're not the only one, Chad. You're not the only. And some people, even after they saw that catch, were like, put him on defense. Defensive end's more valuable. Getting sacks is more valuable than a pass catching tight end.
Yep.
At which point I would say, man, if that's true, and Mark Bowman just got $2.8 million a year, what the hell are the edge guys going to get this year?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, a lot of money being thrown out as well. All right, Catch, anything else we need to hit today before we buy or sell?
I think it's funny that Colin Simmons is a sophomore and probably is thinking to himself, man, I just arrived too late on the scene.
Just missed it.
Missed it by this much. There are guys that graduated as seniors in like 2019 and 2020 that really missed out. But I think every five-star in the last couple of years is looking at the 5 stars this year and thinking, man, those lucky bastards. I'm just too old. I just came about too late.
I was watching that softball series, wondering what does Kat Osterman think when she watches that kind of she's like, Dad, come boy, just a little.
Would Texas have paid Kat Osterman?
Well, that's a fair question
because they're still they beat Texas Tech, but the one thing we still don't know about Texas is what they'll do if they have Kat Osterman in softball, and the going rate is like $1.5 million for her.
Yeah, and that was a wild thing to watch. And now Kennedy's been, going to get paid again. She's coming back to Tech. They've announced a new deal, but we just watched trying to win that way, even in that sport.
But they'll be back. They'll be back in the College World Series.
Yeah, and
they'll have a chance. And I would say with her, the uniqueness of the Tech situation makes that almost like there's no loss there. It's hard to quantify what someone's value to a program is, but she provided them 2 weeks of nonstop Texas Tech exposure on national television that they otherwise wouldn't have had. I know they actually quantify that, but there's just so many indirect positives and valuable pieces of stuff that she brings to the table that I think Tech ends up getting a deal on that. I really do. If you're Tech, you're not running things quite like Texas, So kudos to Tech, man. I tell you what I don't do. I don't sit around begrudging schools and athletes that are getting paid. There was a lot of that haterade going on. It was people were not Texas fans even. You could sense this on social media a little bit that they were rooting for Canada to lose.
Right. Yeah.
As if that'll show her. It's what are we doing?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Get it.
Didn't understand that one either. It was
because I don't know who else in life we begrudge making money in life anywhere.
Yeah, but we've talked about it though. There's still that world. We're not past it yet where even in this NIL and now the settlements happened or whatever, you say it all the time. Even the biggest programs, they don't want to think of it as money. They don't want to think of it that way. And Texas Tech at this point, when you say to them, well, you bought your pitcher, the response should be, okay.
Yeah, we did. We'll do it again next year.
Yes, we did. And that's what we felt was required to go win a national title. Nobody does that the Yankees bought yeah. Well, Jeff's Phillies back in the 2000. Yeah, they did. Yes, they did.
I'm a Liverpool soccer fan. They're about to spend $150 million on a player.
Right? It's hey, Catch, remember when Roy Halladay pitched for free? No, we don't. They paid him a lot of money. That's how it works.
I'm just saying it's weird because there's look, if you told me that a porn star, male or female, not being sexist here, but if you told me that a porn star made $1 million to do a porn, I'd be like, hey, good for them, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm not begrudging the money. I'm not begrudging anybody. If you told me that, the ship captains that go out on the Atlantic and catch all of the big game fish in there, you could give any amount. And if it was a high amount, I would go, good for them.
Yeah.
There's nobody that I sit around begrudging making good money.
Yeah. And by the way, Catch, to clarify, you know what I do when I find out that particular athlete is at Texas Tech? Good for her.
Yeah.
Not good for them. Good for her.
Have you ever met anybody in your life that you've known who said, hey, man, how's your day going? Good, man. Thanks for asking. I got a raise at work today. Fuck you.
You suck. Get away from me.
This is weird. Like, we literally ask that question to people for the occasional chance where they'll give us a reply just like that.
Yeah, I would. The only thing I would say in that story, if I'm candidate, I might have said to my agent, maybe you could hold off on my next deal announcement while I'm getting shelled.
Yeah.
Can we maybe not have that?
Or she could have waited until after the series was over and let the bidding begin, because she would have had some.
Yeah, that probably would have been a better play as well. All right, Catch. We got buy or sell coming up. Also, before that, maybe you can help me out. Jacques jumps in and says, hey, Chad, what did you do to Texags? They were going off on you for some reason last Thursday and Friday. Catch, did you see any of this? Do you have anything to report on for me? No? Jacques, I have no idea. Dig around and find out and come back to me and let me know.
I don't know, man. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe I did something, Chad, and then they were like, how dare he work with him? That's the best I've got.
I do not know what Texags was getting.
But I wasn't involved in any controversies last week. The only controversy that I was somewhat involved in is I made a tweet about Mike White at the end of game 2, where I was like, I suggested that there were some questionable personnel decisions made in that game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but if they win game 3, nobody will ever remember game 2. That's all I said.
Exactly.
And there were people who were like, way to go, Catch, for calling out Mike White. And I was like, really? Was that a call out? I don't think it was. I think we would live in this. This goes back to the Quinn Ewers thing, right? We live in this world where, like, if there's any constructive criticism at all about I used the word curious, not even like that was terrible. It was just kind of curious. And people took that as like me stepping out on a limb and letting Mike White have it. It was like, Jesus, do we have to do this every time somebody, doesn't perform well and we mention it out loud? Is it hate? It's just, where's my ass out?
That is crazy. All right, we'll get to.
You know what I'm turning into?
What's that?
Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon.
You're a little too old for it.
I'm too old for this shit.
We're never too old for buy or sell. It's coming up right after we hear from Lisa and Specs. Here we go.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. Shop Specs! No matter what's on the menu, we've got you covered. With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Shop Specs! Special occasion? Flirt responsibly. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here.
Shop Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you. Cheers to savings.
All right, Mr. Ketchum, you ready to buy or sell, or we got something else we need to hit?
No, I'm ready.
All right, first or second?
I'm going to go second because I think my last question is the question for all time for the Agents.
Oh, I like it. Okay, let's do that. We'll start here, Catch. Buy or sell number 1. You think the SEC will have 9 conference games starting in 2026?
Buy. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
That is so wild that they're going to do that. All right. It does feel like that's where it's headed. All right, to go with that, buy or sell number 2. You think 2025 will be the last season for the SEC football championship game?
Sell. It's money. Money. And yeah, money. Like, there's just too much money. The answer to number 1 is the answer to number 2.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, winner gets the higher seed every time, and both teams probably get in moving forward.
I was about to say, I think the expansion of the playoff in most years will guarantee that the 2 teams that are in will play in the game. So there's the jeopardy of playing that game isn't as significant as it probably felt for some this year.
Yeah. All right. Back to the softball diamond. Buy or sell number 3. Texas will win one of the next 3 softball national championships.
Buy. Yeah. Sure. Why not? Mia Scott's got 2 years left of eligibility. Like, let's see what happens.
I was going to ask.
I'm sorry. Keegan has 2 years.
Kavan, right?
Sorry.
Kavan's back. Is Mia Scott back?
No.
She's not back.
have been getting their eligibilities wrong for like a week now. One's a sophomore, the other's a senior, and every time I talk about one, I reference the other's eligibility. I will stop.
And Atwood is done?
And because
We're back.
Kavon spells her first name with the E's, I keep wanting to put E's in her name and make her Keegan instead of.
Gotcha.
And I've been doing that since last year. So it's not like Johnny come lately. You just started watching the team and you don't know how to pronounce the players' names or their stories. It's I'm too old for this shit. Really.
Yeah. There you go. Off the top of your head,
on my age for real.
Off the top of your head, do you know if Atwood's coming back? No. I don't know that one. If the battery comes back, that would be impressive. All right, Catch. How about this one? Buy or sell number 4. OKC in 5.
Buy. It's funny you should ask that question. Reese Atwood was a junior this year.
Oh, okay. So one more year of that battery together. That's good news if you're a Texas fan. That's big time. OKC in 5. Buy or sell?
I said buy.
Oh, you did say buy. Yeah. All right. I liked your comparison to the 01 finals in terms of the feel of things. I'm wondering if that is what we're going to kind of look back and see by the end of this. OKC certainly looked great in game 2. And finally, Catch, a birthday you might care about. Buy or sell number 5. Natalie Portman is 44 years old today. Prime on prime. Keira Knightley, hotter than Natalie Portman.
Sell. Objectively, Natalie Portman is hotter than Keira Knightley. Personally, I prefer Keira Knightley over all of humanity.
Wow, look at that. That's an interesting way to handle that. But if that's your feeling, don't you just buy it?
No, like I love Miley Cyrus. I think she's sexy. I don't think she's the hottest woman on the planet.
I see. Okay. All right. So you
objectively, I think Natalie Portman is hotter than Keira Knightley. But my love for Keira Knightley goes beyond. Like, I love her smile. I mean, that's
you got like that. You got like that Randy Travis kind of love. Honey, I don't care. I ain't in love with your hair. It's like that kind of love, right? Yeah. Forever and ever, amen kind of love.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Natalie Portman.
And Keira, if you're out there, I'll leave my wife and kids today. It'll be like in Harlem Nights when old boy picks up the phone and calls his wife and his daughter picks up the phone and he's like, hey,
right.
Put mama on the phone.
Yeah, right.
Hey, baby. Yeah, I ain't ever coming home. Take care. And when he hangs up the phone, he has this look of like, yeah, no, that was the right move. It was a good call. Good call on my part. Very responsible.
Yeah, thank you, Colby, for letting us know. Yes, Atwood does have another year. I would have seen it, but I wasn't on the screen. And Catch looked it up for us, too. Thank you, Colby, for jumping in. All right, Catch, what do you got?
Buy or sell number 1. Ryan Wingo will break 1,000 yards receiving this season, all games included, not just regular season.
Okay. Yeah, with every game.
You got to kind of like figure out what the hell, how many freaking games are they going to play?
Yeah.
Enough for their running back to get 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They eventually got to the 1,000 yards. Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll say Wingo ends up at 1,000. I think he and Arch Manning are going to have a big year. So yes, if you'd have said just regular season, I think I'd have sold it, but I'll buy it with the full journey.
Over 12 games, I have him averaging like 4 for 70 a game, which would put him in the 800s over 12 games.
Right. That would have been for the regular season. I'm thinking like 850.
Yeah, that's kind of like that. I am.
Right. But by the time you get through the playoffs, I think it's 1,000.
Buy or sell number 2. Mia Scott is the Vince Young of the Texas softball program.
Oh, wow. You can take this a lot of ways here. Is the Vince Young of the Texas softball program. You know what? I won't get too nerdy because it just happened and it was impressive. I'll buy that. It's a tough thing to try to compare someone to Vince Young, but of the Texas softball program is doing some good heavy lifting there. Before the title, it's probably Kat Osterman, but now that there's a title hooked onto it and she did that and there's the ACL and it's more than just, pitching, which Kat obviously did. There's a little more going on there. There's plays in the field. There's the home runs and all that. Yeah, I'll buy it. I'll say that's who she is now.
And all due respect to Kat, when we say someone's the Vince Young of the Texas softball program, that doesn't automatically make that person the best all-time player in the sport. Like, I think of Vince Young that way.
Right.
But there are people that saw Tommy Novus or Earl Campbell that believe those two players are the best players that have ever played at Texas, and yet they could still acknowledge that Vince Young has an aura of a legend that.
And I also like the fact that Mia, as you're telling the folks, has a chance. Well, so I know you said she is done, so she doesn't have a chance to come back, right? Okay. So that also is kind of that Vince comparison, because obviously Vince got the title and then moved on as well.
She refused to play her last college softball game until she won the goddamn national championship.
Yeah, it's an incredible story.
It's an incredible story.
They need to make sure LHN, digital, whatever it is, somebody needs to do a full treatment now on that team and make sure we get the full detailed story of that ACL, when it happened, how it happened, what did someone say to others, and I mean, it's just that team was
when
something.
She had to have heard her ACL was torn. She could not have reacted. That's okay.
No, but I mean,
so how do we get from a doctor telling her you have torn your ACL to I'm good?
It's like she had like a Ronnie Lott-ish or Jack Youngblood-ish moment. Now, it didn't mean the removal of a finger, but in Jack Youngblood's case, they told him, dude, your leg is broken. And he said, tape it up. I'm going back in. Like, that happened. And in this case,
I'm trying to think on the football side, if there's even anything kind of, is it Sims getting his finger put back into place isn't even the same thing.
That was rough. That was rough. And Sims,
that was only rough because they showed us like him over on the sideline, them doing that.
That was bad. I mean, there's a lot, there's stuff. You go back in the day of what some of the stuff that like Steve McNair put himself through and John Elway put himself through. But in terms of knowing something that specific,
and I don't include like headshots.
Yeah, in a championship moment like that, it's wild. And then to your point earlier, like, I guess I could go back and watch that Texas Tech and Texas football game we referenced earlier. I think BJ Simmons limped a little bit. Man, Mia Scott, I had no clue. None. I had no idea that she was even banged up.
Mia Scott's such a badass. She makes Willis Reed look like a complainer. Like, dude, get your ass out of the locker room and just go play.
Go on, Willis.
What are you doing? Why are you Hollywooding the in and out of the? Just get on the court and play.
Can you imagine what it must have felt like for her to go to that backhand, that one backhand ground ball she had to get, and then she turns and makes that throw perfectly? Oh, that had to hurt.
All right, I got 3 more.
Okay.
And in this one, I'm just putting on a T for you, okay?
Okay.
This is your moment.
Okay.
Fire sale number 3. The best thing you saw this weekend was the men's final at the French Open.
Whoo! Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a buy. Women's final had some good stories. Shout out to Coco Gauff. That was awesome. But to see those two guys at this spot in their career at those ages, and now they've split the last 6 Grand Slams. Now they had never played in a final. They were each undefeated in major finals going in, and now they've actually faced each other. It was magic stuff. The first time you saw Federer and Nadal for all the stakes, our eyes popped out of our head. It wasn't quite that. Let's not get silly. It didn't get that
close,
artistic.
Chad. I mean,
it didn't get that good, but
I think it did.
But there's something about Carlos Alcaraz you just like. There's an Andre Agassi, Rafael Nadal quality to that dude. And Sinner is this understated, like Stefan Edbergish kind of carries himself. You don't really see him sweat. But man, they put big tennis out there yesterday. The 10-point tiebreaker comes into play. My argument for having them go 2 out of 3 gets thrown away because people watch that and go, come on, Chad, you're an idiot. Why would you want them to go 2 out of 3? We would have missed out on all that. It was fantastic. It was the best thing we saw this weekend easily. Certainly the best thing I saw, yes.
You know what it did? I'm not quite the tennis fan that I am the golf fan, right? So, and I don't watch a ton of golf, but when the majors come on, I'm usually in from beginning to end, like every hole I'm in, right?
Sure.
I don't pay attention to regular season tour events at all in tennis. the majors come around and I do pay attention, but I don't start watching until the second week. And sometimes I'm in for the majors, like the finals, and sometimes I'm not. Yesterday ensures if those two dudes are playing in a final, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, no, that's who they are. And perfect timing, man. 22 and 23, I think, are the ages.
They grabbed the borderline iffy paying attention fan and got them in. And now I'm in. And I think as a novice, as someone who pays attention to the sport to the degree that he knows what's going on in the sport, but it still isn't watching a lot of it, kind of like the UFC a little bit right now.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like the first true post Big Three moment for men. The tennis needed that. That's the first time I've watched the sport and thought, you know what we don't need? Rafa, Roger. We don't need a Joker. Like, I'm good. Give me those two dudes again for every major for the next 10 years. I'm all right. I'm going to have fun. I'm good.
Yeah, it was good. And how wild is it that Alcaraz is now 5-0 against him? 5-0 and is beaten.
That didn't seem to mean a lot when he was up 3 championship points in set number 4. What a comeback. That was, you and I, when this is off, we had to have a discussion about how bad of a choke job that was. Because if that had been in an American sport, that I don't know if that's the NFL and it's 28-3. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But wow. Okay. Buy or sell number 4. I'm coming from the same place that you came from. OKC wins the next 3 games and beats Indiana in a gentleman's sweep.
I feel like this is a buy. And, Halliburton had the moment, but he hadn't had good games. He's got to play a ton better if they're going to show up. Holmgren had a inexcusable game and still was able to bounce back, get going a little bit. I trust SGA. They're too deep. And yes, I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think they're going to go sweep in Indiana and then come back and finish it at home.
And finally, the question for the ages. Don't ask me where this came from.
Okay.
I don't even know, honestly.
All right.
But it just seemed like the right question. It's not a hotter than, although in a way it is, okay?
Okay.
We can make this into a hotter than. In fact, I will make it into a hotter than. Buy or sell number 5. Almost naked women. Hotter than fully naked women. Is it hotter to see everything, or is it hotter for there to be mystery? That's the question.
Since you did not throw any specific names or anything out there, I will take the spirit of this one and I will buy. I am a big believer that there's always something hot about the potential of what is happening. And just, because women, the relationship between the women and the clothes can be such a really cool, magical thing that, absolutely. It's a buy. It's a buy. And that's not an insult to the woman. That's not what we're doing here, but I think it's a buy.
I think this comes down to, like, you're one of two things. You're either a heathen or you're like a good human being. I think if your answer is like salivating and your tongue's hanging out and you're like naked all day long, it's like, okay, you heathen. Now sit down. Be quiet.
Gotta calm down. You gotta calm down. Yes, gotta calm down. Yeah, there's something about it. There is something about the scene in the movie where the reason
why we like the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated more than just going to buy the monthly Playboy.
The scene in the movie where the woman walks downstairs wearing the guy's shirt from the night before and only the guy's shirt.
Yeah.
That's hotter in a way than if you'd had her walk down the stairs naked in that scene. So, yeah.
Which is ironic because when she does that, we're all thinking, really would like to see her naked.
Right. But you just answered the question. You just further answered it, Catch.
Which is hotter?
What's hotter than your own imagination? Nothing.
That's the key.
Yeah, that is
human brain. All right, let's buy or sell.
That is it. That's how we do it. Well done. Well done. All right. I think that'll wrap us up. Good to be back. Thank y'all for being nice to me that I'm back. Thank y'all for jumping in on the Specs chat. Over 600 of you as we get ready to close up. Check out all the great content at Orange Bloods Live, Football with Friends. And we got Outsiders, which I think is going to be premiering this week on Thursday morning. So double check us on that. Thank you for checking out the content. It might be a little different than the way you've been checking it out for a couple shows, but a lot of stuff coming. Don't miss the recruiting hour this Wednesday. It debuts at 10 a.m. Brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Holy hell. Jason Sukumel have all kinds of info coming off of the first big weekend and going into the next one. Catch, I think it's Ojo weekend, if I'm not mistaken, coming up. We got Ojo weekend followed by Turn Time weekend. These next two.
Yeah, I got a feeling the recruiting hour will be interesting this week. A lot of stuff to get into between you and Sukumel. And look, you better believe we'll have some of that discussion as well.
No doubt. Plus, I got to make Jason Sukumel talk about a guy from Waxahachie. That will happen. That will definitely occur. Thank y'all for your support as always. We will talk to you tomorrow at 12 right here on House Divided. It's Orange Bloods Live. See ya.